Our gospel this week is taken from chapter 19 in the Gospel of St. Luke. It's the beautiful story of Zacchaeus, who meets Jesus in the town of Jericho. I'd like to read from the first reading today from the Old Testament, the Book of Wisdom, which explains and gives a beautiful light to today's gospel. Chapter 11, verse 22. In your sight, Lord, the whole world is like a grain of sand, like a drop of morning dew falling to the ground. Yet you are merciful to all, because you can do all things and overlook our sins. Beautiful light to today's gospel as we see Zacchaeus, who meets Jesus in the town of Jericho. And this gospel today captures a beautiful image of the sinner meeting the merciful one. And Jesus and Zacchaeus meet in the town of Jericho, and symbolically Jericho means a lot, because Jericho is the lowest town, the oldest town in the world, over 8,000 years old, but it's the lowest town in the world, 250 meters below sea level. If you ever go to the Holy Land, you can see as you go down, by bus we go down, it's like you're going into the earth. And symbolically it's Jesus coming down to meet us sinners, coming down to the lowest point so he can meet us and speak to us and bring us back into communion with God. In the Old Testament, Jericho is a very important town. And when the people of Israel are traveling from Egypt all the way to the Promised Land, after 40 years of journey, the first place they meet is Jericho. As they come across the Jordan River, they come near the Dead Sea, and the first battle they have is at Jericho. And very famously in the book of Joshua, the walls come tumbling down. So symbolically, Jericho is the place of resistance, of sin. And Jesus comes to visit Zacchaeus in this place, which is very highly symbolic. And we see Jesus passes through, the text says. He's passing through, he's coming to seek the sinner. He's coming to look for Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus, we see, will be looking for Jesus, but in actual fact, it's Jesus that's looking for him. He comes to visit, and he calls him by name. How did he know Zacchaeus' name? Because he knew him from all eternity. And the name itself is very symbolic and holds a secret. Zacchaeus means the pure one. Though he was not pure, he was about to become pure. How did he become pure? Because he met the gaze of Jesus. And when you meet the gaze of Jesus, you become pure. To be pure is to know you're precious in God's eyes, to know you're beautiful in God's eyes. And when you know that, you become pure automatically. So purity is a gift that Zacchaeus was about to receive. So the text goes on to tell us that Zacchaeus was a tax collector. He was the chief tax collector, and he was a very wealthy man. So to be a tax collector in the time of Jesus was to be really despised. It means he was a traitor, and he was taking money from the poor. And so Zacchaeus is probably one of the most unpopular men in Jericho. More than likely he had no friends. And he was wealthy, which means he was at it for a long time, probably middle-aged, and had spent his life taking money from people. So, rightly so, he wasn't a very popular person. But this is exactly the person that Jesus comes. Of all the people in Jericho, he comes to visit the most despised and unpopular man. And he was trying to see who Jesus was. We see Zacchaeus has a desire to see Jesus. And this desire is in all of us, this quest. A friend of mine who claims to be an atheist admitted to me last week that sometimes he stays up late at night listening to preachers on TV. So it's funny how some people say they don't believe in God, yet there's a desire there. And we see this with Zacchaeus. And when we have that hunger and thirst for God, God can do so many things with that quest and that yearning that we can have. So he climbs a sycamore tree to see where Jesus was. And we have this image of a wealthy man who's middle-aged, probably a little bit overweight, very well dressed, very dignified, climbing a tree. It's like a comedy, really. Can you imagine a man today with a new suit on, middle-aged, dignified, climbing a tree like a child? Exactly. We have to become like children. Sense of adventure, sense of curiosity. That's what this tree symbolizes, where we want to see Jesus and we're ready to do anything to meet him and to see who he is. So Jesus invites Zacchaeus to come down. And every spiritual journey is a journey down. A down into humility, a journey down into simplicity, a journey down to meet Jesus. And we see that this is the journey that Zacchaeus makes, because the house symbolizes the soul. And it's a hurry. Like Mary went off in haste. When we know God's will, we have to do it straight away. And not to put it off till tomorrow, not to procrastinate. Astunus means to put off until tomorrow. Maybe when I get my job, maybe I get my new job, maybe when I graduate, maybe when my first child grows up, maybe when I retire. Do it now. That's what Jesus is saying. Zacchaeus, come down. I want to dwell in your house today. I want to stay in your house. When Jesus comes in, our life changes rapidly and profoundly, because he wants to be Lord of everything. He wants to dwell in our house, in our souls. He wants to be Lord of our mind. He wants to be Lord of our hearts, of our emotions, of our body, of our sexuality, of everything. He wants to come and settle in our hearts and reign in our hearts.